Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. Weather out here in San Antonio, Texas, really nice. Going to be hot and humid again today. But, we watch a little bit of the news. And one of the observations I made is this, over the past few years. You're not going to beat Biden and the Democrats fighting them on their terms. It's not going to happen, okay? They're better at lying and cheating and stealing than most people that have morals. And the only way you're going to beat them is on God's terms. Okay, and what are God's terms? God's terms are like when David killed Goliath. God gets the glory. He presents the right person to do the battle. Okay, or in Jericho, when the walls came tumbling down, God finds some kind of unique way, and he uses people that are committed to serving him to get involved and bring down the evil that is there so that he would get the glory. But if you try to fight them along their lines, it isn't going to work because they're real good at it. They don't have any morals. They don't have any qualm about lying and stealing and cheating and so forth. But that's just an observation I made. I don't know, maybe yours is different. Okay. We're still going through Proverbs, and we're in the 30 sayings of the wise. Remember, we talked about Solomon's initial Proverbs that he was given to his son, which are wise sayings for living. That covered up to about chapter 10. Then there was like 375 other Proverbs of Solomon. And those you're going to work out on your own. If you take one chapter a day in Proverbs and just work through it. There's 31 days for the most part in a month, so you can read a chapter a day. Okay, once we got to chapter 22, now there's 30 sayings of the wise. So these are wise sayings from other people other than Solomon. And they said 30 of them. And right now we are up to, I'm going to do 3 today. The 16th saying of the wise are warnings, the 17th and the 18th. Listen, if anybody needs to watch this video, it's probably macho men or jocks or guys. When I was growing up, my father was a command sergeant major in the Army. Okay, my mother's Italian. My father was known for throwing the wildest parties. And all these GIs would come over the house, and they'd bring cakes, and they'd roast pigs, and they'd have dancing out in the streets. And I grew up with all that. Okay, my dad was also in the NCO club. He was the one that headed up everything there. And my dad did a lot of drinking growing up. So I was surrounded by drinking and parties and machos and jocks and soldiers and all that growing up. So that was my lifestyle. Okay, not only was I exposed to it, but early on I said, I'm never going to do that. Because I saw some of the damage. My mind wasn't yet influenced. The first time I ever drank was in Germany. And I had gone there with my dad. And I was with a friend. We were with some friends. And he took this guy I played baseball with in France, took me to town. And while he was there, he introduced me to German beer. And I had never drank before. And probably if I hadn't gotten out of my environment where I was, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I was there away from home in a strange place with a guy I knew in Germany where there's no age limit for drinking. And 14 years old. And I'm telling you, I got wasted. But worse is when I went back to Italy, I now took back with me that good feeling that I had from drinking. And that was going to eventually affect me for many years. A lot of macho guys do this, jocks and all that. After a game, they go drink, they find somebody to buy a kegger, they get cases, they go to parties. We went to beach parties. All kind of parties. Initially, you're just drinking to On the weekend, then it becomes, anytime you go out, you gotta have some booze, and then it becomes, after a while, it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes every day. And some people are overly, get overly, addicted. Because along with that, also, when you do that, is sometimes you get involved in things that create pain. Now, you have just learned what can eliminate that pain is booze, right? So now you get into the cycle of pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure, pain, pleasure. And meanwhile, you're developing other really bad habits. Well, Solomon's going to address some of these things right now. So if you've got any macho friends or macho sons or daughters that, are very rebellious, it's probably a video they want to hear, because there's some wise sayings from in Proverbs that may help them. Okay, first of all, let's look at chapter 23, verse 24 and 25. Okay, and here the father of the righteous will greatly rejoice, and he begets a wise son. He who begets a wise son will be glad in him. Let your father and your mother be glad, and let her rejoice who gave birth to you. Okay, basically all he's saying is, parents are either going to delight in you or not. I've heard parents say, I wish to God he was never born. That's a terrible thing to say of your son and daughter, but I've heard many of them say, I wish to God they were never born. Because why? Because they bring more pain on them than joy. And parents want to look at their kids and be proud of them and not be pained by them. So right away, Solomon is reminding his sons, and it would be daughters too, that if I gave you life and your mother gave you birth, let us be happy in it. Okay? And so that's the 16th warning. Then comes the 17th, and it kind of goes along with it. He says, give me your heart, my son. Give it to me. And let your eyes delight in my way. Look to my example. For a harlot is a deep pit, an adulterous woman is a narrow well. Right again, he brings up immorality again. Let me tell you, young boys, young teenagers, and they're getting exposed to girls who are maturing, and they're becoming, and guys are very visually oriented, and they're becoming attractive to this sight, and they're curious, and they want to take that curiosity to an experience. And if they don't have any moral convictions or moral training at home, or have a reason to withhold from taking what was visual to physical, they're going to get involved in immorality. I mean, you see it over and over and over all through history. So all these girls getting pregnant in high school, even junior high, middle school, even elementary now, and so both boys and girls, when they're becoming mature, and they become sexually attracted to one another, if they don't have any moral values and reason as to why to wait, they're going to engage in it. Okay, I don't believe in giving condoms and giving, sex education to the point of doing preventive stuff. I believe the only thing that's truly going to help is abstinence. And that abstinence means you're doing it because you're obeying the Lord, and he'll give you strength to do that. But once you engage in that, once you open up that door, man, let me tell you what happens. So let me read about it. First of all, I was talking about two different women here. For a harlot is a deep pit. Okay, that's basically a prostitute. And notice the analogy. He compares her to a deep pit. I mean, really deep. Okay, an adulterous woman is a narrow well. That's a married woman that is seducing somebody to have sex with her. And it says she is a narrow well. In other words, once you fall into this narrow well, it's not easy to extradite yourself out. It's not going to be easy to get out. Something deep, something narrow. Once you get involved in that, it's going to be very difficult to get out. I rescued a guy from suicide because he got engaged with a married woman And it was beginning to create all kind of problems with him internally. And so he was at the point he had the gun at his head. He was ashamed of what he did. And he's going to shoot himself in the head. And when we got to him, and through a series of phone calls, and he was out of state, we were able to get the gun out of his hand and get his life turned around. But he worked himself into that narrow well, into that deep pit. It's almost like a box. And he didn't see any way out. And there are ways to get out. It's not easy, though. Okay, so he's warning the son once again, Solomon, who had a lot of experience falling into these deep pits and wells, how hard it is to extradite yourself out. It says, and surely she lurks as a robber. What does a robber do? She lurks, a robber looking to steal from you, and increases the faithless among men. Okay, a lot of men have been reduced to a loaf of bread, as other proverbs talk about, when they engage in immorality with either a prostitute or a married woman. Okay, God will never lead you in those directions. I've had women that come on to me, even why I do the devotionals, believe it or not, and different things, and they say things to me. Right away, I'm alert to that, and most of them have this funny idea, and they don't have a clue about reality. They got this romance concept in their head, and they think somehow the grass is greener on the other side, and it's not. It never has been. And the problem with is that a lot of shows, we got Grey's Anatomy, you got all these different television shows that seem to popularize, these married wives getting involved in illicit affairs and all this, to popularize that like if it's somehow glamorous and fun and all that. That is not true at all. Okay, it's quite the opposite. It brings a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of remorse, sexually transmitted diseases, unwanted pregnancies, murder, jealousy, every kind of bad emotion, physically, spiritually, socially, is going to happen when you get involved in all that. Yet Hollywood promotes this. The leftists promote all this. People that don't have any sense of morals promote this. And they think, well, we're adults, we can do what we want. Well, yeah, that's true, and it's to a degree. But adults that are mature recognize, responsibilities and rights, okay? And they try to balance the two, okay? You want to be involved in sex, the best thing to do is get married, okay, with one person, okay, not polygamous. Okay, but so Solomon is warning about how if you get involved, you're gonna fall, you're gonna get in deep. It's gonna be very hard to get out of it. Okay, now he's gonna bring. So the first warning is about kind of honor. The children to honor their mom and dad, and the second warning is about not being engaged with a prostitute or a married woman. Now the third warning is about drinking. And again, I've been around a lot of it, a lot of borrachos and people that, drink a lot. And let me show you, and you're probably all very familiar with what he's going to say in a real colorful way here. And this is in verse 29 to 35. Solomon, first of all, what he does is he poses 6 questions. They're kind of hypothetical, and each question you have an answer for. First question is this. Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has contentions? Who has complainings? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of the eyes? He's making a hypothetical here about drinking. Okay, he's going to introduce drinking. And first of all, he's talking about, who has emotional problems? Who has sorrows? People that are drinking have a lot of emotional problems. Okay? And then social problems. Who has complaining? They're drinking, they start complaining about everything. And then then they have physical problems. Who has wounds without cause? You ever seen a drunk falling on the streets and getting hurt, busting their head open? A guy I worked for a long time. He was a really great golfer and a really good guy, and he married a great Christian gal. He's a Vietnam veteran. Went over there and did a couple of tours overseas, but he had a major drinking problem. And, and people try to get him to quit, and, he didn't, but he wouldn't do it. And one day, his wife had enough of him. She left. And he was drinking, he drank too much, and he was in the bathroom, fell and hit his head on the edge of the toilet and killed himself. That was the end of a life right there. He definitely has wounds without cause. Okay, and who has redness of eyes? Those are physical ailments. So you not only have emotional, social, but also physical problems too. And then he gives the answer to who of the sixth question. Those who linger long over wine. Okay, remember yesterday I was talking about wine in the Bible, and then women that actually had Bible studies, and to be there, they had to bring a bottle of wine. They're going to end up with all these woes. Okay, how stupid that is. Okay, and those who linger long over wine, and those who go to taste mixed wine. Okay, like hard liquor, moonshine, whiskey, mixed drinks, even the one with the little umbrellas in them. Okay, tequila. They had here at my apartment complex. They said, "Manny, you need to come. We're going to have a great time this Friday, a social gathering and all that, and we're going to have the margarita truck here." He says, "Now make sure you come." I said, "Yeah, I'll give it my best effort." I didn't go. Why would I go? Okay, now I don't mind mixing with people and all that. But here where I live, and they're all going to be drinking, and they're going to start getting drunk, and they're going to experience all these things, that's not the place where I want to meet people. Now, I've gone in bars and stuff, and I sit there and I drink a Coke, and I have no problem with that. Jesus was a friend of tax collectors and drunkards and all that too, and so am I. But to actually go and have that as my social activity, no, that's what the church is for. Okay, I can play sports or do something else where drinking and drugs are not involved. Okay, but that's my opinion. Okay, now it says these are the ones that are going to have woes: those who linger long over wine, and those who go to taste mixed wine. Okay, they even have these mixed wine tasting specials. I remember when we used to drink and we ran out of money. Hey, let's go to this place. They got this free drinking wine, and we can drink as much as we get. We'd fill up the glass and drink it down and get out of there. Stupid. Okay. Now, here's a warning. And take real good care of this warning, because advertisers know how to use this. Okay? Do not look on the wine when it is red. What's that appeal to? Your sight. When it sparkles in the cup, it looks so refreshing, like champagne bubbles. Okay, man, that looks good. Oh, isn't that what Eve did when she saw that forbidden fruit? And then second thing, watch when it appeals to your taste. When it goes down smoothly. I'm seeing they said they get that first drink down. Oh, you can just see the relaxation. Everything just kind of flow. Ooh, it's a good feeling, man. Hey, bartender, bring me another drink. and then so you have sight, taste. You look at it. It's going down good. You're drinking more. Then all of a sudden, boom! The Bible says, at the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things. Oh, this big, ugly woman that was right next to me. Man, she sure is looking good right now. You've even seen that commercial with that guy. He wakes up and he's chained to the bed, and at first he's got a big smile, and then he, kind of looks, and there's this pair of underwear is about this big, and then here comes this monster. She said, your eyes will see strange things, and your mind will utter perverse things. You'll say things you never meant to say. And somebody will tell you the next day you said this and that. No, I didn't. Come on. Yeah, you did. And I'm glad when I was younger they didn't have recordings and all that. But they do now. And they can play it back. And so your eyes will see strange things. Your mind will... And you will be like one who lies down in the middle of the sea. What happened? You have no balance. Okay? Or like one who lies down on the top of a mast, up on a... just stuck and falling all over the place and stumbling. And then worse, then you have, they struck me, but I did not become ill. No feelings. Okay, all of a sudden I didn't even feel. Okay. They beat me, but I did not know it. And you get these brave warriors, they're drinking a lot, and they go in the back. And they get the crap knocked out of them. They don't even know it. They somehow seem to think that they're going to do better under the influence, but they really don't. I actually had a guy that was like that in the back nine. He says, hey, Manny. I said, why are you doing that? He says, well, I play better when I do this. And I said to him, no, you don't really play better. You just think you do. He didn't know any better. Okay, they beat me and I did not know it. Okay, so the effects is really bad. It affects what you see. It affects your mind. It affects what you feel. But worst of all, it affects your learning ability. At the very end, he says, when shall I awake? I will seek another drink. When shall I wake? I'm going to go seek another drink. Now addiction. Now you got addiction. What is addiction? Addiction is you wake up in the morning, especially with alcohol, you don't get another drink, you get the DTs. You know what those are? Delirium tremens. Really bad stuff. I got a concussion playing football one time upstate New York. They put me in a hospital room with a guy that was having a DTs. And I'm laying there with a concussion. The guy's laying next to me. He's seeing babies under my bed and rainbow men and all that. I couldn't get any sleep. They finally had to strap him down. And I finally called the doctor and I said, look, you might as well send me back because I'm not going to get any rest in this room. This guy's seeing everything in here. He's having delirium tremens. Really bad. Now, alcohol's bad withdrawals. Drugs are even worse. Sometimes, getting on heroin, methamphetamines, you get addicted to this. And a lot of people with prescription, I'm sure people watching this are on prescription medication and they're addicted to it. There's opiates that get in your system. You get addicted to that, you've got a real problem, okay? Real problem. Let me tell you something. I was addicted for a long time. My choice, though, was alcohol. And I had to make a determination. I had, when I was a little boy, seeing what it did to my dad and all those GIs and everything. So I swore I would never do that. But I got in a place and in a situation where, why not? And that introduced to me something that robbed me of a lot of good years. And it hurt my relationships with a lot of people, with family, with friends. I did a lot of things that I regret and that I'm ashamed of. And so I had to get to the point where, this is not what I want to do. Let me tell you where I'm at now. If I drink one beer right now, it probably takes me a week, 2, 3 weeks, just one beer, to recover emotionally, physically, and most important, spiritually. And the Bible makes it really clear to be filled with the Spirit, not to be filled with wine. And I find when I'm filled with the Holy Spirit, as I am right now, that I have a lot more joy. I have broken that pain pleasure cycle. And I have found that I know a lot of guys that are drinking and they say, well, I quit drinking, but I don't have anything else to replace it with. Well, that's what the Holy Spirit does. When you allow His Word to take root in your heart and in your life, and you allow Him to fill you with His purpose and His plan and His joy, now you got something to replace that with. And what happens is you start giving it some time. You know, or you may have some failures along the way. That's okay. You just confess it and you move on. But eventually you're going to start growing and maturing all the way up to the measure of Christ. And that's what God wants for us. That's what Solomon wants for his son. So although it's funny and some to talk about some of this stuff and all that, the seriousness, and I've seen people die of cirrhosis of the liver as early as their late 20s. And let me tell you something. That is a very difficult death to die. It's a horrific thing to watch. Okay? But your body can recover, but you need to stop doing that, you know. Okay, God bless you all. I'll talk to you all tomorrow and we'll continue with this.